Hi folks! Today I wanted to show you how to create a small acrylic and plywood jewelry box. Now this is designed to be made using the laser cutter, but you could also just use it as a way to practice modeling in Fusion 360. So I'm going to talk today about the proper way to go about building this and different options that you can go through when you're designing. Um, One of the things that I find is going to be really helpful is understanding the steps. Now, basically, I started by building a base and extruding upwards. From there, I built walls, and then uh, those are all the left, right, front, back walls. Then from there, I built a roof out of, and then set the material to be a plywood. I also added a little base part and moved that underneath so that it locks in place. And then a last step is to add a handle that you can then put a little dowel in, which will then allow you to easily pick the box up and place it back down, or pick the lid up. Um, Now, this right now, you'll notice that all of this is made out of bodies. So each piece is its own object, but it's actually even more efficient to divide them into components and then joint them together. So I'm going to show you how to do that, how to divide the object up into parts, and then how to separate those parts into components. And then from there, you can generate renders like the one that we have, or you can export it for laser cutting. So this video will cover the modeling steps, and then in a later video, I'll talk about the exporting and laser cutting steps. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go back to my panel here, and I created a project. So over here, I have lots of projects. I created a new project, and in that new project, I called it laser cutting. And then in that project, I'm going to create a new design, and then I'm going to save that to this, and I'm going to call it acrylic box v2, and that's going to go into the laser cutting project, which is a way to more easily organize my work. So then I have my v1 and my v2, and you can see here that's where it's going to go. I'm going to hide the data panel now. I don't need it anymore. And then we're going to get started on building. Now, you'll notice that I have a few little tooltips coming up when I move the mouse. That's simply because I thought it might be easier for you to know what keys I'm pressing. On the bottom here, if I press a command, it'll show up here like Control C. If I press Control C, it shows up. So you can use that to review what I'm doing in case I'm going too fast. So now, what I'm going to do first is create a sketch. You always start by building a sketch, and then you go from there. And I'm also going to change my units in the top left to change it to centimeters. Just because I'm going to build in centimeters this time, but you could do this in inches if you prefer. So you just go to Document Settings, change this to centimeters, and that's going to affect the whole document. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rectangle, so a 2-point rectangle, click the corner here, and then I'm going to make this be 5 by 5 centimeters. And I pressed Tab. That icon tells you that I pressed Tab. That icon tells you that I pressed Enter. So 5, then Tab to switch to here, and then 5 again, and then Enter. You could also, if you want to change it, you can double click, and I could change this to 10, and I could change this to 10, or whatever number you like. But if you are planning on laser cutting this, you have to think about how much material you actually have. So now here's my first sketch. I'm going to press Finish Sketch, and then I have my other solid panel back, my solid tools at the top, and I'm going to extrude to create the first base. And make sure it says New Body, but actually we can tell it to be a new component It's going to create a new component out of this object. So you have new component selected here, and then I'm going to change this to 0.31, which is the thickness of, and I think it's 125 to be specific, the thickness of the acrylic that I'm going to be using. And if you know what the thickness of your acrylic is, you can use that to help you calculate this. It's important to know what the thickness is before you start. Then over here, I have a component. You see in the left-hand side in my browser, I'm going to name this base. So that's the first object. The next steps are actually the exact same, just on a different plane. When we create a new sketch, we can choose another plane to create, and we're going to use this one, which is the right side plane. And for this one, we're going to create a wall upwards. We still select that corner. We go up to 4, and then we go a width of 5, and that's our right wall. We finish the sketch by pressing Enter and then pressing Finish Sketch. And then we're going to extrude that outwards and make sure we select New Component. And that's going to be a distance of 3125 outwards. We press OK and make sure we have New Component selected. That's going to create our wall. Now, if you're smart about this, you might think, okay, well, we created one. Why can't we create the other one without drawing it? And you're right. You can just copy this over. But there's a way to do it that will save you some hassle. First of all, on the top right or top left here, we're going to change this to left/right walls. Okay, the name. So we have our base and we have our left and right walls. And we're going to choose the Move Copy tool. Make sure Components is selected, but over here we're going to do Point to Point, and we're going to do Create Copy. What we're going to do next is we're going to select the point in the bottom there. So we go Select Origin Point here, and then Target Point is going to be this corner. And now it's going to create another one that is attached to this corner. Then we'll make sure Create Copy is selected, otherwise it's just going to move that one over. Then we press OK, and now we have left-right wall 1 and left-right wall 2. So we have two walls of the same size, and they're the same object, basically, in every way. If I wanted to change the height of one of them, so if I press and pull this, it will change the height of the other as well. So if I wanted to modify and make the box shorter, that way I don't have to actually do one and the other, because it's technically the same part copied twice. Now, to do the other walls, all we have to do is create another sketch, but this time on this plane. And this one's a little bit more tricky because the dimensions aren't exactly even. Because of the thickness, we have to compensate for that thickness in our design. So we're going to create a rectangle. This time, the easiest way that I've found to do this, you just click here and you go 4 up, and then you go the thickness, 0.3125, and we create one rectangle here. Then we create another rectangle from this corner, and it's also going to be 4 up, and then the distance is 5 plus 0.3125 gives us the full distance, the full length, like that. So we created two rectangles side by side in our sketch. A sketch can actually have as many shapes as you like. It doesn't have to be one shape. You can combine a bunch of shapes together to create a custom shape. And now for this, we just need two rectangles. We're done. Finish sketch. We select these two rectangles. We press Extrude, and we're going to go this way. And we're going to do New Component again. And this is going to be 3125, and press OK. Everything's good. Now we have the other step that we have to repeat, which is the copy step. So we select, we'll name this first. So front, back, walls. Then we do copy. We have components already selected, create copy checked. select the origin, which is going to be this point, and then select the target, which is going to be this point, and then we press OK. And now we have our starting point of our box, which is the walls and the base. And at this point, it would be a good time to save. So at the top left, over here, you have the little floppy disk, which is the save icon, or you can press Control S, press save, and we're gonna give a version history for this so that it's easier to know what we did. So we added walls and base. And there we go. And so if you go to your panel here, the data panel, you can see what was happening. Item was created, and then 6 seconds ago, I added the walls and base. This is great for documenting your design process because then you can see what was done at each step. And if you shared this file with someone else, then they could also see what each version was and go back and forth. Okay, I think we're ready to create the lid now. So to do that, we have to create a sketch on top of this surface. We're going to start by clicking the Create Sketch button and click one of these faces. Doesn't matter which one. I'll click this one. And now it's going to zoom us over to here. And we could try to figure out the math of like, okay, it's 5 plus something to get the exact right position. Or we could just have Fusion 360 figure that out for us. So I'm just going to go like this. Blah, done. Okay, there's our lid. Perfect. Isn't that awesome? Well, okay, maybe it's not perfect yet. What we're going to do is we're actually going to use something called the collinear tool. It's just up at the top. You'll notice that there's a thing called constraints. These are really useful for sketching to get things lined up properly. And we're going to use another one later. But for now, we're going to use the collinear tool. We click collinear, we click this line, then we click this line, then we click this line, and we click this line. Oh my goodness, it's lining up here and here, and then here to here. Now, this box is exactly in the right spot. We're not done though, because we also need to create another inner box. This one is just going to be the 5 by 5 box that we had before. That's going to be the one that fits inside. Now we've created our two boxes. And if you're curious and want to know what dimension this is, it's this. It's going to say it's a driven dimension because it's already constrained. You don't need this you can't change the dimension. Like if I want to go in here, I'm not allowed to actually change it because of the constraint. But at least it tells us that the math is 5.625 is the correct distance. Then we press check mark. Now we have our box in a box. That's great. So what we're going to do first is we're actually going to extrude downwards to create our first part of this box. And that part is going to be joined to the other part. To do that, this is going to be the main component. So we're going to start with that. So I'm going to press extrude, and I'm going to go down by 0.3125, and that's going to be a new component. So that's going to go down into the box. If you want to check, you can get rid of some of these walls. So here we go. You can see that it's going down into the box. That's what we want. Then we press OK. Then we're going to create another extrusion on the same sketch. To do that, you actually have to go in here and reveal the sketch again, because anytime you create one of these, it thinks that you're done with the sketch. We're not done. We want to create another thing with the same sketch. So we return this on. This is our top sketch. And then here's one other thing you have to do. You also have to turn off all of these objects. And then we're left with just this. That's the only object we want. And then what we're going to do is we're going to extrude again, this, and that's this part plus this part, and it's going to go, and we're this time going to choose join. It's going to join the bottom part to the top part, and it's going to go up 1, 2, 5, and then press OK. So now we have a bottom and top part, which is one piece, all joined together. And we can change this and call it lid. And now I can turn all these back on, and I have my object. Now, it might be helpful at this point to change the appearance of this. I'm going to save, and I'm going to say added lid. Then I'm going to press A to open up the appearance panel. And then over here, you can check this box. Sometimes it doesn't show up right away, where it says show downloadable materials. Check this box a couple times until your materials show up. And we're going to find wood, and then we're going to choose probably the pine. Press download. If it doesn't let you download, you might need to update Fusion, which you can do up here in the settings. It'll tell you if you need to update. So I'm going to take pine. I'm going to add it to the lid. So now my lid has a pine texture. That's great. Now, if you want to get fancy, you could try some of these like finished woods, and like I can download some 3D ones. Like, ooh, what's this Koa curly wood? There we go. Let's add that in. See what happens. Wow, that's cool. So you can play around and add whatever material you want. I'm not going to be too picky about that. But I'm happy with the pine. Then, from there, we also want to put material on the other parts. So that's going to be acrylic. So we can actually find it in plastic, and then I believe it's in transparent, and then acrylic. So we have to download that, and then we add that to there, and we add that to there. And you'll notice that I only dragged it twice, even though I have 4 walls, because they're the same part. Now I've added my acrylic, and I've added my pine. That's a good start. Then I press save, and I say added materials. Okay. So the last step is to add that little handle. How do we do that? Well, the handle is going to be on this surface. So we create another sketch on here. But in order for us to make sure we know where the middle is, what we can do is, this is a trick that you can do in drafting as well, whereas you just make an X across the object from here to here, from here to here. And what we're going to do is we're going to select these lines, and we're going to tell them, right-click, that they are construction lines. Okay? Those are going to be construction lines. And from there, we create our circle. And here you have to know approximately what size your dowel is. You could make a custom piece. I believe that my dowel was approximately like a 0.6 or 0.8. You can always change it later, but let's go with that size. You'll have to measure your dowel and make sure you get the right diameter, and then you press the dimension tool here, and you click here, and then you can input that diameter in. Sorry, click here, and then like this, it says 0.6, so 0.625, let's say. That's our hole. Then we have to finish that sketch, and we're going to extrude, and this is going to go down by 3, 1, 2, 5, and it's also going to go and then we're going to actually create the dowel after. So first we're going to extrude down. So press OK. It's going to cut in. So now we've created a cut into this part. And then the last step is to extrude one more time. We're going to select this. Oh, it doesn't like that because of the surface. I wonder why we can't. Can't it just extrude up? No, don't like that. So we're going to have to create one more sketch on this plane, and that's going to be 0.6. And then we're going to extrude that up. So press finish, extrude that. Just this part, and we go up how high you want your handle to be. So let's say we want it like this, and we're going to make sure this is a new component, and that way it will be a separate piece. Press OK, and then this is our handle. And there we go. We have a handle, and then, oh yeah, you can go to Appearance Settings, and then choose another material for the handle, so I could give it like an oak material. And there we have our object finished. We have a handle, we have a lid, and we have walls. So let's save this one more time. Added handle. And that's it. Now, moving on, if you want to keep watching some of these other videos, I'll talk about rendering and then setting it up for laser cutting, which is another arrangement of steps. But hopefully, you've been able to learn a little bit about building, designing an object in Fusion 360. Oh, and one last thing I will say is I have object visibility set to a certain thing. You might have it set to just shaded. Yours might look a little bit more like this. And if I turn off this sketch again, you can see that it looks kind of like this. That's okay. It doesn't. It's just a different visual style. You can do hidden with visible edges. You can do like this, so it has like only the edges on the outside. You can do wireframe, which it only shows the wires. There's lots of different ways to view the object. This way, it sometimes might be a bit confusing, so you might want to do shaded with visible only. That way you can still see the acrylic edges, but it's not as distracting. And I'll save that one more time. But yeah, there's lots of little tricks and things that you can learn in Fusion 360, but I hope that this process helped you. Just a quick review of what we did. We built the base, then we built the walls and copied them as components. Then we built the bottom and top of the lid. We added a handle, we added colors, and now we have a jewelry box. So that's all for now, and stay tuned for the next video where I show you guys how to get this ready for laser cutting.